Hey actor friends, welcome back to Shakespeare with Sarah. Today I am looking at Mark Antony's "Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth." It is such a fantastic monologue. I'm very excited to be looking at it today. If you're new to my channel, what I do is I talk about the context for the monologue so you know what's come before. I talk about the acting choices, so some of the things that you might like to think about in your prep. I do a line-by-line breakdown so you understand what everything means. And then at the end, I do a reading of the full monologue so you get a sense of how I would kind of flow it together. So let's jump straight into context. In the beginning of this play, there's a lot of talk about how Caesar has become almost like a god, and he does kind of act like that. He has this, he's quite arrogant, he's got a bit of a big head. The people around him were starting to be concerned that he was going to become a dictator. There were a bunch of conspirators, including someone called Brutus, that decided that it was too much of a risk that Caesar was going to become a dictator. And so they decided to stab him in public, very, very publicly. And Mark Antony was one of Caesar's biggest supporters, certainly in this play anyway. And he comes and sees Caesar's body just after Caesar has been stabbed. What happens when he finds Caesar is that he has to be very, very careful about what he says, because all the people that killed Caesar are all standing around still. And so Mark Antony has to cover his bases and make sure that he is also not going to be stabbed. He has to very carefully convince them that he should be able to speak to the people, to what's the word, like doing eulogy essentially for Caesar. And he convinces them, and then they leave, and then he is left alone with Caesar's body. And this monologue is what he says. So this leads us into your acting choices. There is a dramatic arc in this monologue that is incredible, and it starts with grief, and it is raw and powerful, and then it builds to a declaration of a vicious declaration of war. So it is not about sounding beautiful. It's your job to bring this person to life. So put aside beauty and put aside declamatory Shakespeare and go through that arc. So in the breakdown, I'm going to help you a little bit with the beats, or where I think the beats fall. Your job is to look at where is that shift from grief into action, and how does that build over an arc. You should not be starting in one place and staying there. Also, in terms of your acting choices, what you should be thinking about is focal points. This is a soliloquy, meaning that you're alone on stage. That does not mean that you're talking to yourself. You are actually talking to the audience primarily, but also the body. Practice beforehand. Do a practice self-tape before you do your final self-tape, so you can check out, does it work better if I look at the ground quite far away, or does it work better if the body is right there? You'll also have to balance that with your acting, because sometimes having the body like across the room might be really difficult for you to connect with that visceral sense that you need of, like, the wounds are supposed to be like gaping open and bleeding. And so if you're imagining they're across the room, that might feel not good for you. So you're going to have to make some compromises, potentially balance those things. And before I forget, if you are new to Shakespeare, please check out my Get Better at Shakespeare playlist. And if you are working on a drama school audition, check out my drama school audition playlist, which is all on my homepage, and I link them in the description below, because there are so many videos there that can help you with your technique, which will support what we're doing here in this video. Okay, so let's look at the line-by-line breakdown. So we start with, "Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth." Oh, there's so much going on in this first line. The first thing that you notice here is it starts with "oh." I always talk about "oh" is a guttural sound. So this is the first clue that this is emotional and it connects to something very raw. So if you are not someone that, cries, which Mark Antony may not be someone that cries, and you may not be either. So you might not be sobbing your way through this, but it is raw. So it's not "oh, pardon me," it's "oh, pardon me." It's something in the gut, and I'll try and demo that when I do the reading. The other thing I want to mention here is that it's not "pardon me" like you're walking past someone. Think of the word pardon like you would say the word forgive. Oh, forgive me. Oh, pardon me. The emphasis, it lands on pardon and not on me. I'm hearing a lot of that in the YouTube ones that I've been watching. Pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, like you're walking past and you accidentally bumped it. No, not uncommon for Shakespeare to refer to a body as kind of becoming like a part of the earth, a part of the soil, and that's kind of the way that they think about life cycles, I think. After we die, we become the earth. He's very much recognized that Caesar has passed on, is probably what I would take as important out of that line. That I am meek and gentle with these butchers. Notice the comparison here, meek and gentle and butchers. You really want to spit those out and hold them out as a comparison. The meaning here is that he's apologizing for his political language that he used before, that he didn't immediately say to Brutus and the rest, you, how could you do this? He didn't say that. He had to be careful about his words. And in a way, I think he hates himself for it. And he maybe he wishes he could have been stronger with them and just, died for it. So there's a lot going on in there about how he feels. Thou art the ruins of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Beautiful language, right? But again, you don't have to make it beautiful. You just have to embody this person. He is acknowledging how he felt about Caesar, everything that he thought Caesar was. Now, not everyone felt that way about Caesar, but Mark Antony did. He felt that Caesar was the most remarkable person. The use of the word ruins is interesting because it gives us a sense of a monument. That there's something crumbling, something incredible, a wonder of the world that has crumbled to pieces. So tide of times, if you think about the language that he's calling up here is a washing away, actually, the flow of life. So he, in this language, has called to mind a monument that has been washed away, that has been maybe ruined by turn of the tide of nature and its cycles. And he's mourning it. Oh, it's getting me already. I feel really sad. Okay, beat change. So there's a big shift here, and I would give myself a pause there to make that shift, because you are shifting into almost a curse. This goes into cursing. Woe to the hand that shed this costly blood. That is a powerful exclamation that bursts out of him. So what you need to know here is that cursing someone was very powerful in Shakespeare. It's not just like, damn you. It's really like, when they say damn you, they really want someone to be damned. They want them to go to hell, and they really genuinely mean it, and they think they actually have the power to do it, essentially. So cursing someone like this is really calling down the wrath of heaven and of the gods. So this stuff that he's saying, it needs to feel powerful, like you are trying to open the sky and make lightning come down, okay? So whatever part of you feels that is what you're calling here. Oh, sorry, and to be specific, the hand that shed this costly blood. Interestingly, he doesn't say hands, he says hand, which to me makes me think he's specifically thinking about Brutus. Now, shift again. Over thy wounds now do I prophesy, which like dumb mouths do ope their ruby lips to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue. A curse shall light upon the limbs of men. I had to run all that together because he sort of starts his thought and then interrupts himself and finishes it. So his first thought is, over your wounds, I'm going to, literally what it says, prophesy. I'm making this prediction. And his wounds, Caesar's wounds, are like dumb mouths. So dumb mouths being like silent mouths are opening their lips. So he's actually saying that the wounds are opening and bleeding as if to beg his curse. So to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue, he's saying like, these wounds are calling me to speak this. I have to say this, because he's up until now not been able to say this stuff. He's not been able to curse people while they were there. And now it's like these wounds are speaking to him and saying, you need to do this. A curse shall light upon the limbs of men. So now there is another shift here. He's not just saying a curse on Brutus. He's cursing everybody, the whole world, his whole civilization. This is massive, massive stuff. Shift. Now he's going to clarify what he's talking about. Domestic fury and fierce civil strife shall cumber all the parts of Italy. So here, this is where I would be thinking about speaking to audience members. Cumber being like cumbersome, like heavy, something that weighs it down, that's going to trouble it for times to come. Blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar, that mothers shall but smile when they behold their infants quartered with the hands of war. I mean, that's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. So he's saying that it's going to be so common now that there is going to be so much destruction and violence that a mother would look on their baby being destroyed and just sort of shrug it off because it's normal. All pity choked with custom of fell deeds. So again, like that's kind of following on from what, sorry, I would actually put that in the beat before. So I'll show that in when I do the reading, that this mother has not got any pity left because it's so normal. So custom of fell deeds being like the norm of these terrible things happening. Next beat. And Caesar's spirit ranging for revenge. So ranging, so like as if he's sort of like crossing the plains, like a cowboy, like a ghost cowboy. With Arte by his side come hot from hell. So he's like a demon. So he's imagining Caesar. And Arte was so I'm going to read what it specifies here. Daughter of strife and sister of lawlessness, shall in these confines, with a monarch's voice, the voice of a king, the king that he should have been, and he's going to cry, havoc. So havoc was called as like a war cry, and was to call on the armies to take the spoils. In this imagery, I imagine that Caesar's ghost and Arte are holding these demon dogs and letting them go, and they're attacking. They are metaphorical, and they're attacking Italy and bringing forth civil war, which is exactly what happens. That this foul deed shall smell above the earth with carrion men groaning for burial. So this to me reminds me a little bit of Hamlet, because what's his face, Claudius says, my offence is rank, it smells to heaven. So Shakespeare has a lot of references about these, like the death, killing. It's not just about the smell of the body and then other bodies joining it and rising to heaven. It's about the offence of it. The terrible deed itself has a smell. It has an energy about it, a sick, poisonous energy that rises up to heaven and disturbs the very order of things. So it's incredibly powerful monologue, incredibly powerful. I'm gonna read it through. Here we go. Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am meek and gentle with these butchers. Thou art the ruins of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Woe to the hand that shed this costly blood! Over thy wounds now do I prophesy, which like dumb mouths do ope their ruby lips to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue. A curse shall light upon the limbs of men. Domestic fury and fierce civil strife shall cumber all the parts of Italy. Blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar, that mothers shall but smile when they behold their infants quartered with the hands of war, all pity choked with custom of fell deeds. And Caesar's spirit, ranging for revenge, with Arte by his side come hot from hell, shall in these confines with a monarch's voice cry havoc, and let slip the dogs of war, that this foul deed shall smell above the earth with carrion men groaning for burial. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. You need to access the grief and transform it to rage. And that's the key. Mwah!